Okay, once again, this is Carl Farinelli, and I'm here with our optional live meeting. All three of us this time. We're a small group. A lot of research says a small group is from like 3, and it stops being like a small group. Some people say 6, some people say 8. So when does it start feeling like a big group for you?
I would say after 6.
After 6, yeah.
Yeah.
That's, a lot of research supports that.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of the positive dynamic of a small group, and you have to move over to the positive dynamics of a large group,
Right.
subdividing and that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, so give me your next question that might be helpful to all of your fellow scholars, and you're taking both classes this summer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So my next question is about the portfolio project that has to do with the communication plan
For PR, okay.
for PR.
And a lot of what I say will relate to all of your portfolio projects.
Okay.
So let me give you a little background very briefly. All of these portfolio projects were developed by the department and program chairs. They weren't necessarily, when you get these in your different classes, a lot of these were not developed by your professors. It's the one project that is program oriented rather than just the class. But we allow you in these core classes to get double credit, to get 100 points for doing it well for my class, and then to also get whatever the rubric says, 12 points or 9 points or 15 points, whichever rubric they have. They change almost every semester. I think Dr. Farrell sent us a brand new rubric
Yes.
now for this one.
Yeah.
9 points,
I think.
and it was 12 or 15, right? So whatever rubric you use, and I know the rule, they tell you that if you're aiming at the test, we don't have a test in this class, you just have projects, but if you're aiming at a test, you have to really write for the rubric, right? So when you take the state test, look at the question, and if they give a rubric, you try to frame it around everything they ask in the question, because you know their rubric has all of their key terms in there. So you want to make sure you address everything.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
For me, because this is a field-based class, unless you have chosen to make it textbook-based, but if you're doing this for projects in your school, then I want you to be able mainly to reflect and tell me how this is useful to you.
Right.
So on this portfolio project, for me, for your 100 points, you're going to tell me how all these things interrelate and led up to your communication plan. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Do you like graphic analyzers?
Yes.
Okay, I think I know you well enough.
Yes.
You're sequential, and you like things to be in sequence. Okay, that makes sense. So let me do this sequentially.
Okay.
So if you were to take a bunch of 10-point postings, say 2 or 3 10-point postings, that related to the project where you had to then say the pluses and minuses of 3 school plans. You already did that one, right?
Right.
With your group.
Right.
That was a group. So you did the pluses and minuses of the internal and external communication plans of a district.
Right.
So we'll just talk about of 3 or more school communication plans, right?
Right.
And you already did that with your group.
Yes.
And so if you were really thinking sequentially, then probably what you did was you interviewed your 2 fellow group members, or maybe how many did you have in your group?
Well, I worked with a communication group.
In your school? Okay, so you had to go out and look at some from other districts. You had to do more work on this one.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
For the people that got 3 people or more together from different school districts, they could just borrow each other's plans.
Right.
Or if they didn't have a plan, they could go talk to whoever the chief communication officer was, the superintendent or the principal or whomever is the main communication person, and kind of ask them, what is the written or unwritten plan? What are our rules about communicating within the school and outside the school, right?
Right. Right.
And they would have probably did 3 10-point postings on that. Here's one district, here's another district, and here's a third district. And if they had 3 different people in their group from 3 different districts, they just interviewed each other.
Right.
And they used their own district for one of them and the other 2 people for another.
Right.
Now, a few people came up with that on their own. I don't tell you that you have to do that because it wouldn't fit you, because you're already on a group in your school, right?
Uh-huh.
So you had to do a little more work and go out and find out what some of the other districts did. So you either looked at some of the old postings, or you called some other districts, or some teachers that you knew that worked in other districts.
Right.
So how did you do that? How did you
I
come up?
called people who I knew worked in other districts.
Boy, in summer where you only have 1 day per week, whew, you were calling fast and furious.
Yes.
Okay, wow. And so then you come up with this big 100-point project, right?
Right.
Of the pluses and minuses of a school plan. And then the same thing, later you're gonna do the same thing for a crisis plan. What are 3 different districts out there doing, you know, the pluses and minuses of 3 different school districts' crisis plans? Have you looked ahead and saw that that's coming up?
Yes.
Okay. So there's another bit of information that you could borrow and steal from that for the big portfolio plan.
Okay.
See how you're getting bits and pieces here?
Right.
And how are you gonna do that one? It's a group project. You could either call those same districts back and say, what part of your plan, either within the plan that we talked about, or I didn't see it within the plan that we talked about, or I forgot to ask you, but I also now need to know about your crisis communication plan.
Right.
So are you gonna do that, or did you already do that?
I talked to him a little bit, but we're gonna go a little more in depth.
Good, okay. So, and you can have 3 10-point postings on that. If you're really working smart rather than hard, build 10-point postings that basically write that one for you. And so you got 2 footnotes, so you're gonna have 2, 4, 6 footnotes. You're gonna have your own reflection on step 4. You're gonna have your own creative idea on step 5. You've already written most of your paper there.
Right.
Copy and paste it over, fill in do the transitional devices and the reflection and the introduction, and you got it done.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, if you do your service learning project in something that's related to what you would do, you might include your service learning project here. Now, from what you've told me, I think your service learning project may have some bits and pieces that you'd want to include in your portfolio project.
Yes.
How you involve community, how you get all teachers working together, how you get administration and faculty working together, right?
Right.
Aren't you gonna do that when you get to internship and have your instructional improvement plan? Aren't you gonna do these same kinds of things?
Right. Yes.
So you're learning key concepts. This is your toolkit. I call it your bag of tricks. Harry Wong likes to call it a toolkit.
Right.
You're building through all these projects the same steps you're gonna have to go through when you get there. And then finally then, when you get to your portfolio plan, then there was the survey, right? So we add a survey to it. Oh my goodness, you've almost got a whole big project, the portfolio project done. If you've also surveyed your community and got input from them, you've got at least 4 paragraphs of the supporting middle stuff done for your big communication plan.
Okay.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
And so you take all of this, and you have 3 10-point postings for each, and then you bring all of that together and say, now what, from all of this, if I were the leader, or if I am the leader, a lot of teachers are leaders in their schools, or if you already have an administrative job and you have some teacher leaders and some parent leaders, how would you bring them all together and say, now this is what I've done already. I just had to do this for my class. But what could we do and incorporate this with what get input from them, to come up with this portfolio communication plan. Now you may have to add a little intro to tell how you took all of this and other things and put it together. And you may have to add some reflection here to say what you learned from it, or if you were in charge, what you would do even better. Or now that you see the big plan, how would you put it all together?
Right.
Do you see?
Yeah.
That's what Dr. Ron Cambiano means when he says, see the big picture before you start all these other projects.
Right.
And of course, this isn't even the big picture. This is a part of what you're gonna do when you get to internship, if you really work smart.
Right.
Am I making sense?
Yes.
It's hard to see all of that when you're doing each little piece.
Yes.
And unless you visit with your advisor before you start, you may not have thought of all this. And even if you did meet with me before you started, I probably said so many things that pretty soon there was steam coming out of your ears, and there gets to be a point where you've just heard too much information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, does it help to hear this again?
Yes.
So, what are you thinking right now?
Well,
Now, you're a sequential thinker.
yes.
So how could you put this sequence together even better than what I've tried to do here? Because I'm kind of sloppy with mine.
No, I think yours is really good. I think part of my problem is I think that my survey didn't go along with the other, so I'm gonna have to rethink that.
Well, don't worry about doing that now. Just tell me in your reflection how you would do that.
Okay.
Then before you post it for your, for the rubric, for the program portfolio, because I don't think Dr. Farrell's site's even up now, is it? We're down to 4 minutes. She's giving me a sign,
Okay.
a signal there.
Okay.
So, do you know, is Dr. Farrell, didn't he tell us, or did we all get an email from him saying that the program portfolio site, Blackboard site, would be back up sometime in June? Or the end of June?
I don't recall.
Okay, I have to go back and look at that.
Okay.
But I know one of the big handicaps for all of you is you don't have access to that site right now because they're in
Right.
transition.
Right.
And plus that affected all of our courses. A lot of the information got garbled, like that piece of PR that got added to the fundamentals
Yes.
syllabus right after the rubric. So you're gonna have to look through. I've already given several bonus points for people who spotted stuff that got messed up.
Right.
Does this help?
Yes, it does help. I think I'm having difficulty connecting where the list with the actual information.
Okay, yeah. It might help you to. Have you been in the curriculum class yet?
No.
You'll have to do a Gantt chart in there. So you might want to ask me how to do a Gantt chart.
Okay.
Because you have free access to Excel,
Mhm.
the spreadsheet.
Yes.
And so if you kind of did on the vertical axis, if you kind of did a list of all the different assignments you have to do, and then you kind of did a timeline across the bottom and said, now where would it be best to get each of these done?
Right.
That's when people email me and say, could I swap this lesson for this one and do this one first? Because it would help me with that one.
Right.
That's when they start really wagging the curriculum.
Okay.
So can we stop this segment and go on to the
Yes.
next question?
Yes.
How are we doing on time?